And then we move on to our 3 title fights here. So the first one is Amanda Nunes versus Jordane Durandamy. This is a rematch. A few years ago, they fought and Nunes won by KO, I believe, as she tends to do. Does she? Yeah, or her last decision was against Valentina Shevchenko. Really shows you how good Valentina Shevchenko is. She's the only one who can really compete with Nunes. But anyway, this is a pretty good fight. Nunes is one of my favorite fighters, male or female. She just always brings it. She's insane. Durandamy is much bigger, actually. Amanda Nunes is only 5'9". Durandamy is 5'10". But again, in their last fight, that didn't matter. Yeah, I don't really see what Durandamy has to offer to beat Amanda Nunes. The only way I could see her really getting a good chance here, I guess, is Amanda Nunes just tiring herself out over 5 rounds. Speaking of 5 rounds, there are 3 fights on this card that are title fights, so it's going to drag on, especially because I think this one will probably be a stoppage, or if it is a stoppage, it'll be a late one, but I think it's more likely to go to a decision. The first fight was round 1. Hey, what do I know? Yeah, Jordane Durandamy, she's on a 5 or 6 fight winning streak. She has some decent wins. She's got Holly Holm, Aspen Ladd, and Raquel Pennington in her last 3. Those are decent wins. It's respectable. Yeah, I don't see Durandamy beating Nunes. I don't see it. I don't see what she has to offer. Similar to Faber Yan, I just don't think they have the toolbox. And then we have Max Holloway versus Volkanovski. This is probably the fight I'm most excited for, aside from the Mike Perry fight, obviously. Yeah, this is a great fight. Max Holloway, only the -175 favorite, and I don't really know why it's so low. Max has looked amazing in his last few performances, and I don't see... I mean, Volkanovski is a great fighter, but again, it's one of those fights where I don't think Volkanovski has the toolbox to do it. I think he will be very competitive. I think this fight is exciting because both these guys are cardio monsters. Unless Max Holloway's chin has cracked, I don't see a great avenue to victory for Volkanovski. He's gonna... I don't know. I just don't know what the best game plan is for him, because his game is pressure, cardio. But we've seen Max Holloway, he can counter-strike. He will have the better cardio, I think. I think Max Holloway will always have the better cardio against anyone he fights. Because he doesn't have a ton of muscle. He's pretty thin. Volkanovski's going to have a lot more muscle. He's the bigger fighter, even though he's... How many inches shorter? 5 inches shorter. But I think he will have more muscle. He will carry more muscle. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see what Volkanovski has to offer Holloway. But if he does have something to offer Holloway, it'll be very exciting to see. Yeah, I mean, he's got power, but Max Holloway's fought plenty of people with power. He's fought people with volume. He's fought Poirier, who has both, and that was a very competitive fight. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see Volkanovski winning this fight. If he does, and I'm proven wrong, that's great. Because I want to see a rematch, because I love Max Holloway. But yeah, I don't know. And then you have your main event, of course. Finally, Colby Covington gets a real title shot. Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington, a welterweight title shot. And this is a pretty interesting fight. The odds are -190 for Usman, which I think is pretty fair. So interesting, I'm looking at the stats on Tapology. Only 59% of people picked Usman to win, so that's pretty interesting. I think Usman takes this, just because of the strength advantage. I'm glad there hasn't been too much trash talk in the lead up to this fight, or I haven't really noticed any, because 2 of not the best trash talkers in MMA. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see... And again, I don't see what Covington has that will beat Usman. His striking is going to be way worse. Or maybe not way worse. Usman doesn't have great striking, but I think he will have inferior striking. I think the wrestling might not work, because Usman is just bigger and stronger. It'll be interesting to see who leads the dance in this one. Who's the pressure fighter, because I don't think this will turn into a striking match. It's certainly the possibility, but I think both these guys rely so heavily on the takedown that they will both be going for it at some point. Though on second thought, I also wouldn't be surprised if this did turn into a striking match. If I had to guess, I would say Colby leads the dance. I would say he's the guy who's pressuring, and Usman might be looking to counter-strike and maybe get some reactive takedowns. RDA got some takedowns on Covington, so I wouldn't be surprised if this goes in the later rounds, assuming Usman's cardio holds up, which I think it will. Then he might be able to get some easier takedowns. Yeah, we just haven't seen that much of Covington's defensive wrestling. Also haven't seen very much of Usman's defensive wrestling, except against someone like Damian Maia, who does not have great takedowns. Yeah, these guys do have a common opponent in RDA. Usman performed better, but MMA and math doesn't really work. The only thing we really learned from that is what I mentioned already, that RDA was able to take Covington down. I think if Usman does take Covington down, then he'll be more likely to hold him down, versus Covington goes for more the cage wrestling style, where he'll take you down, but he won't really secure it. He just tries to lean on you. And it'll be interesting to see if he can implement more damage, because I don't think tiring out Usman is worth it. I think you're just going to end up tiring yourself. This fight is interesting because, again, just the cardio. Honestly, the top two fights on this card, all four of these fighters have insane cardio. The most suspicious one is probably Usman, just because of how big he is. He's 6 feet. He's pretty big. Covington is a pretty small welterweight. I did a little bit of research. He cuts from the low 180s. Usman is probably high 180s, maybe. It's always hard to guess walk-around weights or where they cut from, but Usman's definitely the bigger fighter. He has a much longer reach, 14 centimeters, 5.5 inches. So Covington will definitely have to pressure to get inside. But yeah, this is a great card. 3 title fights. Obviously, it's going to be a long one, because if all 3 go to the decision, that's over an hour of cards, or an hour of fights.